So you got the whole. All right, that's actually a challenge.
Yeah, it's all in order right here. Yep. I don't really have notes because, that's how it's gonna work.
Fuck China.
Anyways, okay. Welcome back to Scraptitude. I am Timothy Lewis, and joining me as always is my co-host
Jeff Akins, what up?
Hey yo. So, how you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing well. It's raining and that sucks, but
Yep, rainy day in Philly, but we got a showdown in South Philadelphia between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors. Philly versus everybody. You know what it is, you bish.
oh yeah, we're about to be up 3-1 after this game.
You trust the process. Philly unite. We in this joint. I'm super stoked for that. And that's at 3:30. So we gonna have to bring you this in a timely fashion. But this specific episode is going to focus on boxing. And first and foremost, we have some scraps from April 20th to cover, including Danny Garcia versus Adrian Granados.
Oh yeah, that was a good comeback fight for our man Danny Garcia after a tough loss to with Sean Porter, and we are now very happy to say that he took that bull to school. It was very nice to see Danny come out and it looked like he was having a great time. And finish, I don't think Granados had been finished, right? Before that.
Granados had never been finished before that fight. Say what you will about Danny Garcia. A lot of people call him a cherry picker. Some people criticize him for losing when he faced the top level of competition in this division. I say fuck y'all. We Philly in this bitch. And a lot of people, even though Danny Garcia was the betting favorite, thought that Adrian Granados was going to be a problematic matchup for him. Somebody that applies a lot of pressure, natural fit at the weight class, tough fight for everybody he had gone against, and Danny Garcia fucking schooled him.
It was great. He handled him. Overall, I mean, wow, this fight was a little while ago, but it's basically, it was textbook Danny. He was able to walk him down and apply his pressure, and he really, that textbook checkbook that Danny throws so well. Coming back, and you know what? It was a great fight, and we are happy to see Danny in the win column again. And you know what? I'm ready to see Danny fight again. Who do you think is coming up for him next?
Matt, I've actually been kind of puzzled by this because it seems like a lot of the top talent in the division is tied up. You hear swirling rumors about Thurman and Pacquiao, moments away from signing. Sean Porter is intended to take on Earl Spence Jr.
Yeah.
That may have been officially announced. So there's a lot of the top names are occupied right now for Danny Garcia. I wouldn't mind seeing him get in there with Adrian Broner. If Broner's willing to step in and take another hard-hitting fight and, throw himself back in there, back into the fire and try to show that he still belongs after taking that whooping from Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, that was funny. That's true. Maybe, speaking of Manny Pacquiao, what about Manny Pacquiao? You think Danny could get...
Well, if he beats Thurman, that's a good fight for Pacquiao.
Because I feel like that could be a fight that I'm sure Danny seems less scary than Errol Spence Jr. and after that and everyone else out there. So
Danny's a fight for anybody in this division, though, and he would probably give Earl Spence Jr. a better fight than some of these other dudes. At least I think that he would be in there and train with them. He has the durability to make it an interesting bout. Earl Spence Jr. seems like he's a little bit too big and a little bit too strong. But you know what? Danny, he came into this fight and he came in like he had something to prove. And that's what I've been looking for from him is I thought that Danny was perhaps resting on his laurels a bit and feeling very comfortable. And despite coming off of a couple of losses, I thought he felt secure in where he was with his life, with his boxing legacy. It didn't seem like he had that hunger. And in this fight, he made a statement. And the division has to look out because he showed that timing and that punching power and everything that he has is no less lethal than it had been before people were calling him a cherry picker and before he had those tough fights that made people doubt his credibility.
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard for anyone to. I can't really agree with the cherry picker thing simply because he has fought top competition and for the fact that he had a split decision loss to Keith Thurman, which is. It's a split decision loss. That is what it is. And then he had his UD against Porter, which...
that fight was actually closer than the Keith Thurman fight, in my opinion. He could have won the Sean Porter fight, whereas he didn't really deserve the Thurman fight.
And then, some people were a little taken from his Lamont Peterson fight, but I thought he did fine. I thought he won that fight, too. And it's just... Danny is out here, and he's taking good fights. So anyone out here calling him cherry picker, eat a dick.
Eat a dick, straight from Philly to your heart. Anyways, Danny Garcia, awesome. I like Granados. I think he's tough. It also looked like, though, that we had a world-class type of boxer who has that type of fighting camp and regimen, nutrition, all of that. And then it kind of seemed like we had a guy who has coasted on toughness and grit and determination. And those seem to be very pertinent variables when that fight took place. Garcia just seemed crisper, he seemed faster, he seemed stronger, he seemed fresher. Just everything about him seemed to class up. Yeah. And I'm not sure if that's just the camp or that's because he's an alpha dog and Granados is a beta in this division.
Well, I mean, it's really about, not half of boxing, but a good part of boxing is recognizing when and when you shouldn't fight certain people and the types of opponents you need to fight at a certain time in your career. And Danny isn't. The thing that he did, and I think is important, is that while he didn't choose the most difficult fight here, I think that Granados was the type of fighter that he needed to get in there with to show people that he is still here and that he can still close out fights at welterweight, and that there's no reason to think that just because he alternated wins and losses for a few fights doesn't mean that he's not still at the top, one of the top fighters in this division. Actually,
who's the guy that Sean Porter just beat? Because that's a fight for Danny Garcia, because that was a controversial decision in favor of Sean Porter. Ugas, something like that.
Yeah, Yordanis
Ugas.
That was actually, I remember that fight. That was when, so Porter came in, he had that horrible weight cut, and then Ugas they had an intense fight. I think Porter was pretty slow in the start, but I think he managed to turn it up later in the rounds. I have to rewatch it, but that was in March. That was from March, so yeah.
Depends on what kind of fight Danny's looking for. In my opinion, you give him another fan-friendly, stylistically favorable fight, because this is all about kind of rehabilitating Danny's brand to get him in there with another top name, another killer. And I think that Danny is psychologically ready for any fight that you throw at him. However, just for the sake of the economics of boxing, give him a Broner, give him a Jeff Horn, somebody with a name. But that's also probably not going to challenge Danny in the way some of these other guys at the peak of the division are, who he can have a statement victory against.
That's true. I see. So we've got, Adrian Broner.
I actually like that Jeff Horn fight.
Yeah,
I like that fight.
I think that Horn is a little slighted right now because people, I think, are just... He's getting worked after that gift victory from Pacquiao, and now everyone's like, yeah, let me whoop this bull's ass so I can get...
But that's the thing. But I give Horn credit because he's not afraid of anybody. Like, he came in and took that Crawford fight, which is like the hardest fight in boxing right now. So give credit where credit is due. You look at Jeff Horn, you laugh at him all you want, but then you look at Amir Khan fighting Terrence Crawford, which is my awesome segue, and you start to gain
There's Vargas. I did forget about Vargas.
You start to gain a greater perspective, though, about the fact that Jeff Horn, maybe he's not the best guy out there, and he was overrated after his performance against Pacquiao, but then perhaps he was underrated because Terrence Crawford is that good. It would be a cool fight, a dog fight, and I think Danny Garcia beats Jeff Horn, but it'd be a nice stylistic show, fan-friendly bout, and something that gives Danny Garcia more momentum heading into a bigger fight for a belt.
Yeah, I can see either of those fights. I like the Broner fight. I think that fight will produce the best build-up between the two, just because of the personality clash, and especially just for the fact that Broner tends to take L's so really hard. And it's just
and we root for Philly W's,
and it would just be so funny because I think that Danny would sleep him, and then it would just be so good to have...
Broner got a fucking chin. If there's one thing about him, though, is he can take a shot.
He can take a shot, but he's going to bed. No, but it'd be good. There's a lot of different directions I think that Danny could take it, but the most money-making one I think is Adrian Broner. I think that Danny might want a rematch, maybe with Porter or with Keith Thurman, as a way to just get back in there, maybe avenge a loss.
I agree.
I think that it would behoove him to maybe get another name in there before he gets Hobbs back in there, just so he can have, get 2 wins under your belt and then get in there with someone who,
He was a dark horse in this division, though, because Keith Thurman, at least after his performance against Josecito Lopez, looked vulnerable.
Yeah.
His fight with Sean Porter was razor close, where he landed the better shots, but Sean Porter was the more active fighter. He's a dark horse in this division right now, and a good fight for anybody. I'm intrigued to see where Danny's path leads forward. But moving on to Crawford versus Khan, this fight was a stacked card that also featured. This card had the Teofimo Lopez setup fight, and it also featured the Shakur Stevenson versus fuck was his name, Christopher Diaz.
Yep.
So this was meant to be a monumental card for boxing, and I believe it underperformed from a pay-per-view perspective. And it was really a black spot on the sport because Crawford is one of its premier talents, and Amir Khan is a name who has some degree of respect, a reputation, and is also kind of a setup fight for, really bringing some of these newer fighters into the mainstream. And to have that fight end on a dick punch.
Well, all right, that's where it gets weird, and that's where you have to understand. Like, that's where you got to talk to the ref and recognize where the ref is going to be and this type of stuff, and how you want to have. Because the fighters can only do so much, so it really depends on how well you can control your fighters. And also, Amir kind of trying to take an easy way out, I feel like, and seeing if he could pull a DQ out of that. But I guess we can talk about how it wasn't a good way for the fight to end, but at the end of the day, Terrence was having the most success in the fight, but Amir, I guess, was starting to have a little bit of, I don't know, I guess he was landing a little bit in the rounds that I don't really think so.
Amir he landed very little throughout the fight. He actually started to seem to catch his rhythm a little bit before the nut shot, and at least be able to, be competitive in some exchanges. However, what tips the scales for me in terms of was he just too hurt from being hit in the nuts versus did he take the bitch way out? He had 5 minutes to recover.
Yeah.
5 minutes. And he chose not to take it. He didn't even see how he would feel shortly afterwards. He just said, no, I'm done. And, like the least you can do is give yourself the opportunity to recover, and he had no interest in that. And therefore I have no interest in giving him the benefit of the doubt, saying that he was too hurt, because he seemed to be walking around fine and interviewing fine. I have not seen any reports of testicular contusions. So, Amir Khan, I give everybody respect for stepping in the ring, stepping in the octagon, participating in combat sports, because you have to be a hardcore motherfucker. You have to be a dog who perseveres through years of training, who just demonstrates the highest level of perseverance. But right there, he folded, and to me, that was the bookend on a career of Amir Khan.
That's a good way to look at it. One of the things that seemed to be the biggest thing that I also gleaned from it is that he just was looking for a way out, and he saw that he was overmatched. But it is disappointing. That's really what it is. It was a disappointing end to what was supposed to be a good showcase for potentially either fighter, and it's just that I had hoped that Amir would have a little more respect for what he was doing and respect for himself to at least try and at least be like, yo guys, just chill for 5 minutes. Damn bro, you can still quit after it, but at least make it look good. Shit. I don't know. It's just. It is a little disappointing, and what it does is it kind of taints what's happening for Crawford, because a lot of people will see that, and there's always the conspiracy theorists in boxing. There's always the people that are going to be like, oh, well, yeah, he was winning, but he hit him with the nut shot, and that really was, and that's how people pull out anything for any type of fight. So.
Well, that'll be like the fanboy, because there's already contingencies that are building up where there's the Terrence Crawford crowd and the Earl Spence Jr. crowd.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be low blows tossed back and forth, pun intended. Because these two have, there's just going to be that fanboyism that propels some ludicrous discussion points. Just confirm for me that Shakur Stevenson fight was on this card, correct? Yes, it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. First of all, on Boxing Rec, they have Shakur Stevenson's mugshot photo as his profile picture, like bloodshot eyes.
It's not cool.
It's just a bad look.
A bad look.
But don't end up with your shot taken as a mugshot. I guess. I don't know. Pull out here in street fights and shit like that. Like, you gotta keep yourself out of trouble as a high level professional athlete.
50 million pictures of this bull's face.
Yeah, but you can't. I don't know. There are boxing rec. There's no doubt. Boxing rec did Shakur Stevenson dirty here. There's no doubt about that. They could have pulled any number of photos, and somebody out here either they have a vendetta against Shakur Stevenson or they just have a sense of humor.
It's funny as shit.
But he's talented, man. He's 130 pounds, probably going to move up to 135 in the near future. He is a very talented fighter. We're talking about some of these up-and-coming guys. He's young. How old is he?
21.
He's 21 years old, and the way he fights, it just reminds you of like seasoned, calculated professionals. Like doesn't take risks, like overt risks. Fights within himself. Strong fundamentals. Picks his shots wisely. Calculated defense. Strong combination. I mean, he's just really, really good. I'm excited to see where he goes. And his fight against Christopher Diaz was a win against a 24-year-old fighter who had only had one loss previous.
Yep.
Really strong showing from Shakur Stevenson. And even though that was only his 11th win of his career, it puts him in the conversation of fighting some real names in this division. I know he exchanged some tweets with Gervonta Davis. That fight might not happen in the near future, but it's one I'd like to see down the line. Of course, it seems like I'm throwing Gervonta Davis's name in almost every fight. I want to see whether that's Tevin Farmer, whether that's Vasily Lomachenko, whether that is now Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez. But I'm more impressed, actually, by Shakur Stevenson than Teofimo Lopez, as impressive as Teofimo Lopez has appeared to be.
Teofimo is bigger than him, but who's Teofimo's? I mean, they're both young. They're both young bloods. You know, getting.
How old is Teofimo?
They're the same age.
They're both 21. Wow, a lot of talent, and he's fighting.
They're actually exactly 1 month apart in age. So
they're both fighting at Teofimo's fighting at 135, and Shakur is currently at 130 though.
Yeah. So one of the things that
and Teofimo's out of Brooklyn, and how about Shakur?
Shakur's from New Jersey.
New Jersey, wow. Yeah. So we got some East Coast dogs. I love that. So, you gotta love that.
I mean, it gets the Gervonta fight is probably the closer one, just the easier to make in terms of weight wise, just because they're closer in weight. But I think that I can see the Gervonta fight happening just because good management likes to get certain fights out of the way before fighters become problems in certain aspects, and I'm sure that Gervonta, I mean, he hits hard and stuff. Actually, one of the things that's interesting, I think, Shakur's actually a good amount bigger than Gervonta is too. At least height and
height. I mean, Gervonta is kind of like a little silverback.
Yeah, true.
That's how he's built. Like I've even made the Tyson comparison. I mean, they're not like he's kind of hybrid Tyson, Roy Jones. I see elements of both their game in Tank Davis. There's so much talent blooming in that division, those weight classes right there, and a man like Vasily Lomachenko, if I was him, I would be taking these fights now because he's going to get older and these guys are going to get better.
Yeah.
So he should be trying to pull like a Floyd Mayweather where he fights a young Canelo, and don't let these boys come into their prime because they're going to have the explosiveness and the power to be a real problem.
I agree. I think I think Teofimo has the most besides Gervonta, just because Gervonta has Floyd, who's bolstered his image. I think Teofimo is definitely going to be the one who's going to break out a little bit more. He seems to have a good personality, and when you watch him fight, he's arrogant.
He's cocky as shit, man. The thing though is Teofimo doesn't have any real fights on his record right now. They threw Teofimo. It was he had the record built up, but it was not thought to be like a challenging fight. It was like this is a veteran who's not going to have the punching power or anything to really threaten you.
He's fought a good amount of veterans. All of his last fights, all of them are 20 plus. These one like 25-1, 34-3.
I hear you, but
just pad records.
But you look at those guys' records and you look at their combined their opponents' combined records,
I'm
and
sure they're probably ridiculous.
The guy that Teofimo Lopez beat is a veteran. What's his name?
Adias Tilly.
He's a veteran, but he's known as a guy that's more of like a technical dude, fights on the outside, not a lot of power, just wasn't going to threaten Teofimo and keep him honest.
True.
And so it was stylistically a favorable matchup where Shakur Stevenson took on an opponent that is young and hungry and ascending.
True.
And To me, that's a much larger feather in his proverbial cap than what Teofimo Lopez achieved on that same night. And therefore, I'm more excited about Shakur Stevenson. He's a more proven commodity, even if he's not as flashy and explosive and powerful punch for punch as Teofimo Lopez.
Would you favor him in the fight?
I would.
You heard it here.
That's one I'd love to see, but that's one that's not going to happen anytime soon. Okay, moving on, we just had last night on Cuatro de Mayo, or that's how you do it? That's the Spanish? I'm Spanishing.
Yeah, Cuatro de Mayo.
Yeah, Cuatro de Mayo. Hold the mayo, though. I don't eat no mayo. Jacobs versus Canelo Alvarez. This was a good fight. I think a lot of people saw a decision as a likely outcome, and that Canelo would be the benefactor of that outcome.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's really expecting to win decisions against Canelo anymore. And one of the things that, at least, I mean, no one expected Danny Jacobs to come in here and really get the W, but I definitely had him as a more live underdog than a lot of the betting sites and a lot of odds makers had him as. And I think that was...
Yeah, you did.
Well, I think that was much more apparent as the fight was going. And while Canelo definitely seemed to be pulling ahead at points, Jacobs was game the entire fight, even taking some of the last rounds of the fight away from Canelo just through sheer activity alone, as Canelo was trying to pace himself for the last few rounds. And I think that depending on who you are and the state of where you're fighting, that is the type of stuff that leans judges one way or the other. And I think that Daniel Jacobs has been on the losing end of a few decisions now that he has been trying to work his way.
Just two.
A few. Yeah. A few decisions. Two.
It's a couple.
Okay. I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Sure. But I think now that he's shown enough of his game to the fact that he definitely was more game than they gave him credit for. He put up a much better fight than I think that he got credit for in the cards. And Canelo is obviously a special talent, but it was game.
Daniel Jacobs was game, and the fight was competitive. That does not mean I think it was necessarily close. I thought that Canelo overwhelmingly won the first, 2/3 of the fight. And that Daniel Jacobs came on. I think we had him winning the 7th, and then maybe the 9th and 10th, something like that, or 7th, 10th, 11th, 7th, 9th, 10, 11th. So Canelo came back strong in the 12th.
Our legal stream cut out for a second, and we had to...
no, my man here, a DAZN subscriber. That shit's real.
So...
That shit's real, so...
holy shit, how the hell do you say this dude's name?
Sergey Drevyachenko or whatever?
Yo, y'all need to chill with this. All right.
Yeah, Drevyachenko.
See, Golovkin is as complicated as it needs to get. We don't need this.
Gennady Golovkin's pretty easy, but that Drevyachenko or whatever the fuck that bull's name is, I don't. Okay.
Anyway,
but Danny Jacobs. Most people, I believe, that actually have some kind of boxing acumen knew that he was going to come in. He was going to be fast. He was going to be big. He was going to be durable. And that he was going to
definitely
push Canelo to... He's going to push Canelo to be a good version of himself. He was going to make Canelo work. And that's exactly what happened. And Canelo came out, and he was a superior boxer, both technically and both in terms of power. Everything seemed to be in Canelo's favor. Yeah. Up through round 6. Canelo now, I know he's the new golden boy. He does lose Zap in the second half of the fight. He's a good enough boxer, and he conserves enough energy, and he's able to function when he's tired well enough that it's not a cataclysmic detriment. But he definitely loses juice. And you saw Daniel Jacobs still have Zap on his punches later in the fight in a way that Canelo didn't, but Canelo's smooth, and he's rolling with punches, and he was using that momentum to bring back his hooks, and he's a tremendous athlete in his own right, but you did see him slow down. And I think that there were a couple of different variables coming in with this fight. One was that Danny Jacobs had that crazy weight cut down to 160, which is not a natural weight class for him to be fighting at.
Yeah, so they had their rehydration clause, which is not something that they had to do when he fought Triple G. But one of the things that... So did they come in at Did he have to weigh in at the same for the Triple G fight, or was that one a little higher than once?
No, Triple G, they fought at 160, but there was no titles on the line, so he did not have to do the secondary weigh-in to qualify, for which you have to be 170 or below, within 10 pounds.
Yeah, so now it gets to the point where we have to really guess how much that if that is what was affecting his condition and how much he was worrying about it. But
I think psychologically it weighed on him because his activity level was low during the early portions of the fight. And to me, that's a fighter that's trying to conserve energy because he had to know that you can't be dropping early rounds to Canelo and letting this go to potentially to a decision, and that it was going to be hard to finish him late in the fight.
Yeah, it really showed. I mean, that's one of the things that Jacobs has been trying to do, and he's been trying to use his weight as an advantage to try and bully these smaller but more technically better fighters. And that's what's happening is, Canelo's just a little smarter and played the game a little different than Triple G did, and I think that Jacobs just tried to bite off a little more than he could chew. It was good. It was definitely, he reached for greatness there, and it was definitely a good fight, and he put it, it was good, and it's a nice win for Canelo, and it's going to push him on to, even greater heights. But at this point, I'm trying to see better fights than this.
Yeah. Well, you said best. New manager, new me.
Yeah.
Triple G watching this shit from the ringside with his shades on, fucking
so
pink blazer.
Dude
was stunting out here. Afterwards, he said the fight was boring. He said it was a sparring match. He said they had no emotion. And I kind of agree in that the fight played out in a very predictable way between Jacobs and Canelo. With Canelo just being the better fighter, but Jacobs being the scrappy competitor who was able to make him work and keep a competitive fight that went to the distance. But Triple G was right that there didn't seem to be that oomph to the fight, that where Danny Jacobs was willing to go for it, or that Canelo felt the need to punish him and make a statement with a stoppage.
I think Canelo's getting a little comfortable with these decisions.
Well, he's so good though, and I mean honestly, he's in a position where these guys have to be forcing him to work, and because to me, Canelo felt like he was in a class above Daniel Jacobs, where he was able to just kind of coast through the fight and not take unnecessary risks. He did slow down because of his cardio a little bit, but also he's experienced enough as a fighter to where once he gets deeper into these fights and knows he's up on the cards and he knows your speed, he knows your power. Why open up the margin of error? I get that there's some gamesmanship there and chasing the finish, but he's a smart guy. He's cerebral in there, and he's not going to force anything. And that's what we saw. We saw somebody who was willing to take the path of least resistance to victory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never a fan of this shady judge life, but it is what it is.
But he won that fight. I mean, there's no doubt about that one.
I'm just saying, I think you shouldn't be. He's getting comfortable getting these decisions.
Canelo won that fight, though.
He won the fight. He's getting too comfy. So
it's not like Danny Jacobs is some easy guy to finish. He's only been finished once in his career, and that was a devastating knockout by Dmitry Pirog. Yeah. So it's not like this is some chopped liver. Like, he's finished. Hadn't he finished his two previous opponents?
I think so.
He finished...
no, he had a split decision.
No, not Danny Jacobs. Canelo.
Oh,
You're saying he's getting comfortable with his decisions. He beat Rocky Fielding in the second round.
Majority decision.
Triple G. The Julio Cesar Chavez fight was longer ago, and that was a decision as well.
Knockout.
All right.
All I'm saying is...
He did finish Rocky Fielding early on. That was at 168.
Good for him.
That was also kind of like a warm-up, stay fresh fight.
Look. He's the new golden boy. It's fine.
He is.
That's all it is. I'm happy for Canelo.
You know how I am on this. You know that I was very pro Triple G in both fights. I thought Triple G won both fights, the first by a greater margin, clearly. So you're not going to get any argument at me about the shady judging and how that's a stain on boxing.
Yeah. I'm not even talking. It's just, it is what it is. The one thing that I think I think it'll show up, I guess. I don't know if Triple G will take advantage of it, but maybe as better boxers maybe are enticed to fight Canelo, that cardio thing will become a disadvantage if you aren't able to keep up your output in later rounds. Because it's one thing to have a fighter who's drained, who's trying to keep under a weight, but someone who's in there and is able to take advantage of you losing your breath like that, it'll get interesting. He should fight Terrence Crawford.
Who should fight Terrence Crawford?
Terrence should get in there with him.
Yeah, I don't think that works.
All the fights work.
All the fights work, except maybe that one.
I don't know.
I
I see the bread.
I don't think Canelo is really in a position where he's hurting to get paid for any of his fights. He's the biggest pay-per-view, or he was the biggest pay-per-view star in boxing before he went to DAZN.
I guess
He's a superstar, man.
I don't know. To be honest, what was his last? So yeah, Triple G was his last big pay-per-view, right? Yeah.
Anyhow,
Anyway,
moving on to more Philadelphia feistiness,
There we
fucking
go.
greatness.
much better.
JRock, Julian Williams challenging 3-belt title holder Jarrett Hurd for the super welterweight championship. My man Julian Williams looking hard as shit
Dun, dun.
in his boxing rec image. Oh my god, just look at that man. Like you said, 1,000-yard stare or whatever. Looking right through your soul. Okay, so Julian Williams trains out of West Philadelphia, James Schuler Memorial Boxing Gym, which is where I happen to get some of my work as well. Not nearly at the same level. I'll put that. I'll state that. But I have had the pleasure of watching Julian work a little bit, and he's fit and ready and mentally there, and I'm excited to see him go in and implement all the things that he's been showing in the gym, because he is a top-notch fighter, and I haven't seen what the odds are for this fight. I'm sure they favor Jarrett Hurd, but if you saw what I see, and if you know what this Philly spirit brings out of some of these cats, man, he's gonna come up and he's gonna be ready, and he's gonna show all the craftiness and the preparation and the grit that he has on May 11th.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and it's gonna be a great fight. And when from watching, just from watching Hurd and just from seeing some of Williams' highlights and stuff like that, one of the things that's gonna be fun about this is Hurd is a little bit of a slow starter. He tends to get bend over a little bit at his waist a little hard, and he gets to get caught off the center line by the right hands tend to slip through early. Tony Harrison had a little bit of success with that in their fight when they were going at it. And one of the things you can see from Julian is that he's got a pretty sneaky right hand, and it's pretty good. And
Yeah, he cracks with that too. That shot has power in it, man.
And Hurd gets caught with that.
You hear that shit when man, that joint has a legit thud to it when it connects.
And I think that's going to be a big a piece of what Williams has to do. And the only thing that I have to think about really is the fact that Hurd is definitely bigger than all these things say he is. He's definitely
Boxing Rex,
6'1".
yeah, 6'1".
He's definitely that real 6'1". A lot of people have him listed as like 5'11" and stuff like that, and that's just not. He's bigger than that.
He's big, and he's going to be significantly bigger than JRock.
And that's really one of the things that it does bring back the echoes to the Jamel Charlo fight.
That was the Jamal.
Whatever. And they one of the things that is important is he's going to have to make sure that he stays active and make sure that that he doesn't get caught like he did against the Charlo brothers. But
that was a flash shot. The thing is, Jarrett Hurd is a big puncher, and he's not so much different from those guys in that regard. So you are going to have to be watching out for that power. You are going to have to make sure that your head's on a swivel, that you're maintaining craftiness against Jarrett Hurd. That said, despite all of his achievements in boxing so far, 23-0, 3-belt title holder, he's not invincible. And these guys that make him work and that get in his face and that pressure him can put something on him. Because Jarrett Hurd, it's not like he's some defensive savant. It's not like he's some footwork wizard. Yeah. He's got a lot of power, and he's big, and he's strong, and he's a sharp puncher, and he hurts these dudes. But JRock he's crafty. He moves his feet well. He doesn't overextend himself. That shot that he got caught with by Charlo, it was beautifully timed, but that doesn't happen all the time, man. Like, sometimes you just get caught with a shot that's well-timed, well-placed, and that's part of being a competitor in this sport. You did see earlier in that round, though, and it was a good fight, and Julian Williams had his moments against Charlo in that fight. He actually caught him with a good right hand earlier in that round before he caught that fateful uppercut that had Charlo hurt. He has the power to crack and hurt dudes that are bigger than him. That's been apparent to me. He is going to have to be wary about the power. Jarrett Hurd is rightfully going to be the favorite, but Julian Williams, he's been in there with the top guys in the world. He only has one loss, and that's to somebody that's in the top 10 pound for pound of many people.
Yeah.
He's being slept on a little bit here, and I would not be surprised if his ringmanship, like his ring generalship, if his footwork, if his slickness, if his technical proficiency all give Jarrett Hurd a lot of trouble.
Yeah, one of the things that I saw with Jarrett Hurd when with the Aris Landy Lara fight was that he tends to get a little lazy as the fight goes on. He likes to drop his left hand and hold it low for his jab, and Tony Harrison and Lara had success against him as the fight went on, and Lara actually took him to a split decision. So it was actually very interesting to see. One of the things that you see with JRock, and he does well.
Shit, that was a split.
Yeah, is he pulls off. And this Hurd is so subtle to it. Is you can circle off to Hurd's right side and you can crack him, and it shows up in every fight. And Aris Landy and Tony Harrison both had success with it, and just I don't know if Julian can keep his wits about him, keep his head on the swivel. I think he has a really good chance of taking it. I don't know if he's going to stop him, but I think he has a good chance of taking a decision just because of the fact that Hurd gets lazy as the fight goes on.
This very well could be a wake-up fight for Jarrett Hurd because he's not so different from the Charlo brothers in that he's big for 154. Like, he's big.
He's big.
I'm 6 feet tall. I weigh 170 pounds right now. I'm not in, like, fight camp shape or whatever. But Jarrett Hurd, the idea of me getting down to 154 pounds is like, whew, that would be a fucking feat of survival.
Yeah.
And that's where Jarrett Hurd is fighting right now. It's difficult for me to see this being a comfortable weight class for him in the long term. He's 28 years old, so he's definitely experiencing some physiological changes in his body, as is inherently true with physiological changes. They occur in the body. But Jarrett Hurd could be running into a situation right now where he's fighting somebody that is a real 154-pound fighter with the cardio and everything that comes along with that. And there's a possibility that the work rate of this fight takes something out of him, and in the latter stages where he comes on, maybe he doesn't have the juice, and JRock goes and pours it on him, because watching him against Nathaniel Gallimore, Julian Williams, Gallimore was a power puncher. He was a bigger guy. Tough dude, talked a lot of shit going in there. And what Julian did is he fought a crafty fight, outboxed him in the early going, used his just technical ability. And then later on in the fight, he started exposing the weaknesses, seizing the larger margins that are exploited. Once these dudes get a little tired, they get a little looser, their hands drop a little bit more. And there's a world where that happens against Jarrett Hurd. He's going to need to watch out for that power and not get cocky. I think that his best course of winning this fight is probably going to be via decision, because Jarrett Hurd is big. He's going to be able to take shots. And if you expose yourself and you're going to throw combinations too recklessly at him and get too aggressive, he could catch you with that big shot.
He's going to catch you.
That's how he is.
Yeah, he knocks dudes out.
That's how it was with that Jason Wellborn. You saw Jason putting a lot of pressure on him, and he was a clear underdog in that fight. And Jarrett Hurd caught him with the body shot and dropped him with that out of nowhere when Jason was roughing him up.
But that's one of the things that will work one of the things that can work in Julian's favor as the fight gets on is the power goes, and he's just gonna have to make Hurd work, and that's gonna be a key for him. And I think it's gonna be a good fight, and I hope we see Julian Williams, JRock, winning a title in Philadelphia.
Hell
you
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah. Well, we got Tevin Farmer, Philadelphia champion. We got JRock about to bring 3 straps to Philly. We got Danny Garcia back on the rise, about to claim more straps. Most straps, strap season, Philadelphia. It's a Philly summer. Let's get with that shit.
Hey.
I do want to say one more thing. Just propping up our city, the city we love, the city of brotherly love. I was at not this past weekend, the weekend previous, Friday night, Bouts on Broad at the Met Philadelphia. It was an exciting event. A lot of native Philadelphia fighters. It was just a good time. The Met's an exciting venue, great place to watch fights, and we have a video that's now on YouTube that's kind of summarizing some of the stuff that's going on. There was one dude from Uganda that actually took a Pennsylvania title holder's belt. He was super slick. You can see his name in the credits. I forget it. Whatever. But a lot of good scraps that were going on. And Scraptitude, we're out here. We're trying to do more than just be podcasters or tweeters. We're trying to be involved in this entire fight game. And Philadelphia is a bedrock of scrapping. We are a city of brotherly love, but we are also a city of brotherly combat.
Scrap.
And it's an amazing thing to be surrounded in that kind of environment with that type of intensity. And I love seeing champions being born and bred in this city, the greatest city on earth. That's where I'm going to cut it.
Word.
Cool. That
John.
worked out well.
Jesus.
Um,
Dun, 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 dun.